Normally, a case only concludes when investigators apprehend the culprit and the criminal faces the punishment of the law. However, in today's case, this is entirely different. Catching the murderer of this case is merely the first step in the journey to uncover and decode a deeply mysterious case. Without wasting any more of your time, let us dive into this case. On July 13, 2010, a group of children were flying kites in an abandoned field in Shanghai County, Shandong Province, China. As they passed by a long abandoned well in the area, they caught a strong and foul smell. The curious and energetic children challenged each other to guess what could be inside the well to cause such a terrible odor. Under the admiring gaze of the group, Dai Hoang, the eldest child and the leader of the group, approached the well, pinched his nose, and peeked down to investigate. He then confidently turned back and announced that all their guesses were wrong. "There's nothing special," he said. "It's just some clothes and a bit of trash at the bottom." The group questioned each other. If there were only clothes, how could the smell be so terrible? Suspecting that Dai Hoang was exaggerating, they all went to the edge of the well to see for themselves. Seeing his peers not believing his words and gathering around the well, Dai Hoang threw a brick into the well to scare them. However, after the brick hit the bottom of the well, a floating corpse emerged. The clothes Dai Hoang had seen earlier were now clearly part of the decomposing body. Terrified by the sight of the corpse, the children ran back screaming to alert the villagers. Ironically, Dai Hoang, the brave leader of the group, was the first to run away. Upon receiving the report from the villagers, the police and forensic team quickly arrived at the scene. Retrieving the body proved to be extremely challenging because it had been submerged in dirty water for a long time, and the scorching summer heat had caused it to swell and become soft. The body was severely decomposed and emitted a horrendous smell. Forensic experts estimated that the man had died approximately 6 months earlier. Based on his clothing, a coat, sweater, jeans, and leather shoes, investigators speculated that he had died during the winter. Moreover, the man's attire and appearance were not consistent with those of the rural farmers in the area. He appeared stylish and distinct. This raised several questions for the investigators. 1. Who was this man? 2. Why did he die in this remote area despite not being a resident? 3. Did he commit suicide, or was he murdered and dumped here? Regarding the first hypothesis, investigators deemed it highly implausible. According to their initial assessment, the man was not a local resident, so how could he have known about the abandoned well in such an isolated field? Furthermore, during the harsh winter, the surface of the well might have been frozen. Would anyone jump into an icy well to commit suicide? Moreover, the forensic report revealed injuries on the man's head and face, which were suspected to have been caused by external forces rather than natural decomposition. However, due to the advanced state of decomposition, it was difficult to conclusively determine the cause of death. Investigators could only proceed with 2 parallel hypotheses. Additionally, investigators found no identification documents, wallet, or personal items on the man. The most agreed upon hypothesis was that he had been murdered, and his body had been dumped into the well to conceal the crime. To unravel the mystery, the police launched a large-scale investigation. They scrutinized all reports of missing men in the vicinity. After exhaustive efforts, they identified 17 individuals whose physical characteristics and time of disappearance matched the timeline. Following multiple rounds of comparison and filtering, investigators pinpointed one suspect. His name was Vong Hai Nguyen, and he had been out of contact with his family for 6 months. His style of dressing was notably similar to that of the victim. However, upon comparing the victim's height with Vong Hai Nguyen, there was no match. The victim was taller. Consequently, Vong Hai Nguyen was eliminated from the list of suspects. The case encountered significant challenges from the very beginning as investigators struggled to identify the deceased. They had to expand their search radius, investigate thoroughly, and compare all available information about men reported missing across the entire province of Shandong, not just the vicinity of the abandoned well. Vong Duk-sun, the political commissar of Shanghai County Public Security Office, who was then the captain of the criminal investigation team, recounted, "We had to divide our investigation teams to visit every city, comb through districts, and search villages one by one. Every nook and cranny of the province was turned upside down. We investigated every missing man who matched the age range and height and had lost contact during this time. We went to each family and questioned their relatives. But despite all the time and effort, we made no progress. Despite exhaustive efforts, the investigation hit a dead end. The team then proposed a bold new strategy during a case discussion. Instead of sticking to the traditional approach of identifying the victim first, they would reverse the process. This new method involved focusing entirely on identifying individuals with suspicious backgrounds, regardless of whether they were directly linked to the victim. Anyone with potential motives for committing a crime would be investigated immediately. The police shifted their approach, rearranging all the clues in the case. Following heated debates among the investigators, they reached a consensus and proceeded to investigate all newly released ex-convicts, unemployed individuals, heavily indebted people, and particularly those with violent tendencies near the scene of the body's discovery. However, when these individuals were invited for questioning, most of them provided solid alibis, complete with witnesses who could confirm their whereabouts during the crime. Finally, the investigators made a surprising determination. Vong Hai Nguyen, who had previously been ruled out as a suspect, now re-emerged as a person of interest. This time, however, the narrative changed drastically. He was no longer considered a victim but a potential suspect. The background of Vong Hai Nguyen and the new investigation direction Vong Hai Nguyen's background raised many red flags. He was the owner of a large chicken farm in the area. However, due to poor management and a devastating disease outbreak, he had accrued significant debts and was embroiled in numerous financial disputes. Investigators hypothesized that the victim could have been one of his creditors. Out of desperation and financial stress, Vong Hai Nguyen might have murdered his creditor and dumped the body in the well before fleeing the area. Another suspicious detail was that the well's location was not far from his chicken farm. Being born and raised in the area, he would have known this spot better than anyone else. A particularly puzzling aspect of the case was that 6 months before his disappearance, Vong Hai Nguyen had spent a substantial amount of money refurbishing his car. This raised questions. Why would someone burdened with debt spend so much on repairing and repainting a vehicle, only to hide it in an abandoned garage instead of using it to flee? This contradiction piqued the investigators' curiosity. A closer analysis suggested that transporting a body from his farm to the well would have been nearly impossible without a vehicle. Investigators speculated that his car might still hold traces of the crime, prompting him to repair and repaint it in an attempt to cover up any evidence. Following this lead, the police searched the abandoned garage near his farm and discovered Vong Hai Nguyen's car. According to the captain of the technical team at the Songha County Criminal Investigation Bureau, after locating the car, we conducted a meticulous examination, especially of the trunk. There, we found a suspicious black stain, a small spot that appeared to be dried blood. DNA analysis confirmed that the blood belonged to the victim found in the well. This discovery gave investigators solid grounds to assert that the car's owner, Vong Hai Nguyen, was either directly involved in the murder or, at the very least, had knowledge of the crime. However, by this time, Vong Hai Nguyen had been missing for over 6 months. Even his family and close acquaintances had no knowledge of his whereabouts. Before his disappearance, Nguyen had sent multiple messages to his family and friends, stating that he was fleeing due to overwhelming debts and would not return until he had earned enough money. He assured them not to worry or search for him, promising to make amends once he came back. For a man deeply in debt and constantly facing threats, insults, and harassment from creditors, going into hiding seemed like a logical explanation. However, seasoned investigators saw this as a carefully crafted alibi for a murderer, not the genuine reason for his disappearance. The investigation then focused on Nguyen's social connections to determine the identity of the man found in the well. Curiously, none of his acquaintances or friends from Songha County or Shandong Province had any knowledge of the victim. Using advanced investigative methods, the police traced Nguyen's call history and identified 2 mysterious phone numbers that had been in frequent contact with him before and around the time of the crime. By this point, only one of these numbers was still active, the other had been deactivated shortly after Nguyen's disappearance. Both numbers were traced to Tianjin, a city far from the crime scene. A task force was immediately dispatched to Tianjin to locate the owners of these phone numbers. A new lead in Tianjin. Upon arriving at the address registered to the first phone number, investigators were startled to learn that its owner had also been reported missing several months earlier, around the same time as Vong Hai Nguyen's disappearance. The family of the missing man had filed a report about his mysterious absence but had received no updates. His physical description, clothing style, and build closely matched the victim found in the well. DNA testing confirmed that the deceased was indeed this man, whose name was Han Ban Loi, a 29-year-old resident of Tianjin. This raised a perplexing question. How did a man from a distant city like Tianjin end up murdered and dumped in an abandoned well in Shanghai County, Shandong Province? Neither Han Ban Loi's family nor his friends had ever heard of him traveling to Shanghai or having any connections there. While the first lead was being investigated, the second phone number was traced to another Tianjin resident named Han Bao Sun, a 33-year-old man. When police arrived to question him, his behavior immediately raised suspicion. He appeared nervous and evasive when asked about his connections to Vong Hai Nguyen and Han Ban Loi. When questioned about his activities in early 2010, Han Bao Sun stammered, claiming he had spent time in Tianjin doing odd jobs after celebrating Lunar New Year with his family. He insisted that he had never traveled to Shanghai or Shandong Province. However, when the police pressed him for specific details about his work and requested verification of his alibi, Han Bao Sun grew visibly flustered and could not provide any concrete information. Incriminating discrepancies. Further investigation revealed that Han Bao Sun had no stable employment or business ventures. Yet, he was living extravagantly, spending large amounts of money. When asked to account for the source of his income, he remained silent, refusing to cooperate. The unexplained wealth, coupled with his suspicious demeanor, intensified the investigators' focus on him. They discovered that his phone had been in frequent contact with Vong Hai Nguyen leading up to Nguyen's disappearance. To further corner him, the police showed Han Bao Sun's photograph to the families of both Han Ban Loi and Vong Hai Nguyen. Their suspicions were confirmed when Han Ban Loi's mother immediately recognized the man in the photo. She stated that he had visited her house several times during the Lunar New Year to meet her son, after which her son had left, saying he was going on a business trip. Tragically, Han Ban Loi returned only as a heavily decomposed corpse, retrieved from the abandoned well in Shanghai County. Employees at Nguyen's chicken farm also recalled seeing Han Ban Loi visit the farm several times, often accompanied by Nguyen. On one occasion, they even overheard a heated argument between the two men. However, since such disputes were common with Nguyen's creditors, the workers thought little of it at the time. Faced with mounting evidence, Han Bao Sun could no longer maintain his defiance. He confessed to his involvement in the case. Han Bao Sun revealed that both he and Han Ban Loi were unemployed individuals who spent their days gambling and engaging in frivolous activities. They had met through a well-known gangster in Tianjin. After several encounters, the two became close friends, bonded by their shared dreams of doing something big. They had initially planned to pool their resources to open a pawn shop. However, their limited funds made the plan unfeasible. At their wits' end, Han Bao Sun was introduced to a wealthy man in Shanghai County, Shandong Province, by a mutual acquaintance. This man, the acquaintance said, was looking to hire someone for a special job that was dangerous but highly lucrative. Desperate for money, the duo decided to take the risk. They traveled to Shandong Province and met the employer, Vong Hai Nguyen. The special job, the dangerous job Vong Hai Nguyen wanted to hire them for, was none other than murder. Their target was Trong Ban Lin, the operator of a funeral company in Shanghai County and a distant relative of Nguyen. The question arose: why would the owner of a chicken farm hire assassins to kill a funeral director? Investigations uncovered a dark and tangled web of personal motives. The key lay in a woman named Trong Hong Ha, who happened to be Trong Ban Lin's wife. A love triangle. Vong Hai Nguyen and Trong Ban Lin were distant relatives. Over the years, Nguyen had frequently visited Trong Ban Lin's home during holidays and family gatherings. During these visits, Trong Ban Lin, who was generous and kind-hearted, had often lent financial assistance to Nguyen, who was struggling to manage his debts and the failing chicken farm. Instead of gratitude, Nguyen developed feelings for Trong Hong Ha, Ban Lin's young and attractive wife. Nguyen began visiting their home under the guise of seeking support. Each time, he brought gifts and alcohol, claiming to be overwhelmed by his financial troubles. Trong Ban Lin, despite being a poor drinker, often agreed to share drinks with his unfortunate relative. What Ban Lin didn't realize was that behind these gestures of gratitude, Nguyen was secretly seducing his wife. Despite his financial struggles, Nguyen spared no expense in buying luxurious gifts for Hong Ha. After a period of relentless pursuit, Hong Ha gave in to his advances, and the two began a secret affair. In public, they maintained a facade of propriety, ensuring no one, especially Ban Lin, would suspect their relationship. Privately, however, they would meet frequently, either at Ban Lin's home when he was away or at Nguyen's chicken farm. Driven by their desire to be together without fear or secrecy, the lovers plotted to murder Trong Ban Lin. Failed attempts. When Han Bao Sun and Han Ban Loi arrived in Shanghai, Nguyen promised them a substantial sum for the job. The pair agreed and devised multiple plans to eliminate Ban Lin. Their first attempt involved staging a car accident. However, by sheer luck, Trong Ban Lin survived unscathed. To celebrate his escape, he hosted a party, with Nguyen being one of the first guests to arrive. Unfazed by the failure, the assassins made a second attempt by planting explosives in Ban Lin's car. Remarkably, he once again escaped death by a narrow margin, leaving Nguyen furious. After these two failed attempts, Han Bao Sun suggested pausing their plans temporarily, fearing that Ban Lin had grown suspicious and was now more cautious. Betrayal and the death of Han Ban Loi. The assassins later returned to Nguyen, demanding payment for their efforts. Nguyen, however, refused, arguing that the job was incomplete and no payment would be made until Ban Lin was eliminated. To sweeten the deal, Nguyen offered to increase their fee from 100,000 to 140,000 yuan if they succeeded before the Lunar New Year. The pressure mounted, but both assassins remained reluctant, believing that attempting another hit would jeopardize their safety. Frustrated, Nguyen devised a sinister plan. He proposed a grim alternative. Either the pair complete the hit on Ban Lin, or Han Bao Sun could kill his partner, Han Ban Loi, and take half of the promised payment. Nguyen justified this by claiming he lacked the funds to pay both men. Driven by greed and ambition, Han Bao Sun betrayed his partner. He lured Han Ban Loi to the chicken farm, where he ambushed and killed him. Together, Han Bao Sun and Nguyen loaded Ban Loi's body into Nguyen's car and transported it to the abandoned well, where they dumped it to conceal the crime. Han Bao Sun then returned to Tianjin with the entire payment and continued his life as though nothing had happened. The involvement of Trong Hong Ha during his confession, Han Bao Sun revealed that all their plans and actions had been orchestrated by Vong Hai Nguyen. Moreover, Trong Hong Ha was fully aware of Nguyen's activities. In fact, she had even secretly given money from her husband's finances to help Nguyen carry out his sinister schemes. Based on Han Bao Sun's confession, the police in Shanghai County promptly arrested Trong Hong Ha. Although Vong Hai Nguyen, the primary suspect and mastermind behind the case, remained at large, both Han Bao Sun and Trong Hong Ha faced justice for their crimes. 1. Trong Hong Ha was convicted of conspiring to commit murder and sentenced to 11 years in prison. 2. Han Bao Sun was convicted of murder and received a death sentence, with a 2-year suspension of execution. Vong Hai Nguyen, the elusive mastermind. The whereabouts of Vong Hai Nguyen remained a mystery. Initially, investigators believed that he had gone into hiding to avoid the consequences of his crimes. However, as the investigation deepened, the police realized that the truth was far more complex than they had anticipated. Vong Duc Sun, the political commissar of Shanghai County Public Security Office, stated, "We spent 3 years and mobilized thousands of personnel in a nationwide manhunt for Vong Hai Nguyen. Despite employing all available resources and advanced investigative methods, we found no trace of him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air." The investigators eventually concluded that to locate Vong Hai Nguyen, they needed to revisit Trong Hong Ha in prison. They suspected that she might still be hiding information that could lead to his capture. The reason for their suspicion was clear. Trong Hong Ha and Vong Hai Nguyen had a deep and passionate relationship. Despite being heavily in debt, Nguyen was willing to spend large sums of money and go to extreme lengths, including hiring assassins, to eliminate Trong Ban Lin. All of this was driven by his desire to live openly with Trong Hong Ha. A critical confession after multiple interviews and persistent questioning, Trong Hong Ha finally broke her silence. She revealed the last time she saw Vong Hai Nguyen before his disappearance. Embarrassed and regretful, she recounted, "One winter evening at the end of 2010, after I saw that my husband, Trong Ban Lin, had left for work at the funeral home, I secretly went to meet Vong Hai Nguyen at his chicken farm. However, shortly after I arrived, we noticed that my husband had followed us there. It appeared that Trong Ban Lin had discovered their affair. At that moment, the couple found themselves caught red-handed, with Trong Ban Lin likely realizing that his dutiful wife and loyal nephew had been betraying him. Panicking, Trong Hong Ha fled the scene, while Nguyen stepped outside to confront Trong Ban Lin. The two men had a heated conversation before leaving the farm together. Later that evening, Hong Ha attempted to call Nguyen, but his phone was already unreachable. She initially thought that Nguyen had turned off his phone to avoid suspicion from Ban Lin. However, he never contacted her again. Suspicions shift to Trong Ban Lin given this revelation. The investigators began to suspect that Trong Ban Lin might have been the last person to see Vong Hai Nguyen alive. When police visited his home for questioning, Trong Ban Lin displayed intense anger and refused to cooperate. While his reaction was understandable, he had been betrayed by both his wife and nephew. It also raised suspicions. As the investigators delved deeper, they discovered that Trong Ban Lin had consistently avoided direct answers about Nguyen's whereabouts. It seemed as though he was hiding something. To address this, a senior investigator and a psychological expert were assigned to talk to him, hoping to unravel the truth. A suspicious statement during their conversation, Trong Ban Lin let slip a remark that immediately caught the attention of the investigators. One of the lead officers recounted, "While we were discussing the case of the body in the well and the mysterious disappearance of Vong Hai Nguyen, Trong Ban Lin casually remarked, 'Those two hired killers Nguyen brought in were idiots. Why would they dump the body in a well? If it were me, I'd just cremate the body directly. That way, no one would ever find out.' At first, the officer dismissed this as a hypothetical comment and jokingly replied, 'That's true. If the body had been cremated, it would have been impossible to solve this case.' However, he noticed that Trong Ban Lin's demeanor changed drastically. While pouring tea for the investigators, his hands began to tremble, and he avoided making eye contact with them for the rest of the discussion. Ban Lin later added, 'After what Nguyen did to me, I wouldn't forgive him even if he died 1,000 deaths.' Trong Ban Lin, victim or perpetrator? These developments led investigators to a startling hypothesis. Trong Ban Lin, initially seen as a victim in this case, might actually be the perpetrator behind Vong Hai Nguyen's disappearance. With decades of experience in cremation and connections in the funeral business, Trong Ban Lin had the knowledge and resources to dispose of a body in a way that would leave no trace. This could explain why, despite years of searching, investigators had been unable to find any evidence or clues about Nguyen's whereabouts. A new lead from Trong Hong Ha. When informed of this theory, Trong Hong Ha broke down in tears and expressed deep regret. She lamented, "If I hadn't done such terrible things, I wouldn't have to pay such a heavy price." Eager to help resolve the case, she recalled the last day she had seen Nguyen. It was a bitterly cold day, with dense fog and heavy snowfall. "That's all I can remember." Investigators immediately consulted meteorological records for Shanghai County. They determined that the only day in late 2010 with such weather conditions was March 9th. This led the police to conclude that March 9, 2010, was the date of Vong Hai Nguyen's disappearance. Searching through cremation records armed with this new timeline, investigators combed through cremation records at the funeral home where Trong Ban Lin worked. They focused on the period around March 9, 2010. Their search revealed that several individuals had been cremated during that time frame. However, all the records were meticulously documented, and the identities of the deceased were verified by their families. Given his expertise and connections in the industry, investigators suspected that Ban Lin might have exploited his position to arrange for Nguyen's body to be cremated at a different facility. An unusual cremation case expanding their investigation to nearby districts, the police uncovered a peculiar incident at a crematorium in a neighboring locality. On March 9, 2010, the staff at the facility handled the cremation of a young man whose circumstances raised suspicions. According to the crematorium worker, the body was brought in by a single individual who claimed the deceased was an orphan who had died in an accident. The worker found it strange that no family members or friends accompanied the body, which was also not dressed in traditional burial clothing. The worker asked for more documentation, but the man provided only a notarized copy of his driver's license and signed a liability waiver before leaving. Connecting the dots, the crematorium's records indicated that the deceased was identified as Vin. However, upon further investigation, the police discovered that a man named Vin had already died and been cremated at Trong Ban Lin's funeral home in 2008. This meant that the documents associated with Vin's cremation in 2010 were likely fabricated to conceal the true identity of the body, potentially that of Vong Hai Nguyen. The man who delivered the body had used his driver's license, which was traced back to an employee at Ban Lin's funeral home. Evidence points to Trong Ban Lin. With mounting evidence, the police confronted Trong Ban Lin. Initially, he denied any involvement. However, when presented with the cremation records and other evidence, he could no longer maintain his innocence. It was revealed that after Nguyen and Hong Ha had hired assassins to kill him, Ban Lin began to suspect their affair. He secretly followed Nguyen and eventually caught the two together at Nguyen's chicken farm. After catching them in the act, Ban Lin pretended to leave for work as usual but returned with a trusted assistant, Lee Van Tick. A confrontation ensued, during which an enraged Ban Lin physically assaulted Nguyen. In the heat of the moment, he and his assistant accidentally killed him. Realizing what had happened, Ban Lin used Nguyen's phone to send messages to his family and friends, creating the illusion that Nguyen had gone into hiding. To cover his tracks, Ban Lin leveraged his connections in the funeral industry. He manipulated documentation and arranged for Nguyen's body to be cremated under a false identity, ensuring that no trace of the crime would remain. Verdict on October 25, 2014, the Intermediate People's Court of Jinan issued its verdict. 1. Trong Ban Lin. Life imprisonment for intentional homicide. 2. Lee Van Tick. 9 years in prison for his role as an accomplice. After 4 years of investigation, the case was finally closed.